Hi, my name is Megan, and this is Everything Lit. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a tag. So I found this tag posted by Library of Alexandria, and I will link that video down below. This is a birthday tag with different prompts based on birthday prompts. And because when you're seeing this, or when it's posted, it'll be Saturday, and my birthday is Monday, March 18th. So I figured it would be fun to do a little birthday tag and talk about some books that I like. So I've got my list. The first thing, you can't have a birthday without cake, right? So birthday cake is a plot that's cliche, but you still love it. And I struggled with this one, but I am gonna put a whole genre on there, I guess, and that is cozy mysteries. I have Up to No Gouda by Linda Riley and 6 Feet Deep Dish by Mindy Quigley. I am loving cozy mysteries, and I don't know that they're cliche, but they have their certain tropes that they have to hit, right? You've got this town of quirky characters. You usually have a pet that helps solve the mystery or is a distraction from the mystery, or, there's a little furry buddy. And then there is usually a romance with a detective. What I really liked about Up to No Gouda is that the romance in this was with an electrician in her town. So it didn't have that we love the police vibe that a lot of them do. So I think for birthday cake, I'm gonna say cozy mysteries are cliched stories or stories that have their particular tropes, but I still love them. The second prompt is party guests. The prompt is my most anticipated release for the year, and I think that my most anticipated release is Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. I cannot wait for this book to come out. I loved The House in the Cerulean Sea. I have read it twice. I think I read it twice in the same year. I was so in love. Beyond the Sea is the sequel, of course, to The House in the Cerulean Sea, which is about Linus, and he works at this department that is basically like child services, but for these magical children, and he goes to these orphanages and evaluates whether or not they are taking care of the children properly. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if he says they're not, then they get moved and they don't get to build that family or build those connections. But also, if they're not getting taken care of, he's a very by the book, rules matter kind of person. And so he goes to this orphanage on this island to evaluate whether or not they are taking care of the kids well, and he gets drawn into this little found family, and it's just so lovely and magical and whimsical, and I can't wait to read the sequel. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited for it. It'll probably make me cry. Prompt number 3, birthday presents. So exciting. The prompt is a book you were surprised at how much you loved it. And I kind of have 2 answers for this, because, presents are surprises. These were presents to myself. One of them I have talked about a lot lately, so I won't spend too much time on it, but These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling and the sequel, This Coven Won't Break. I was blown away by how much I loved this book, by the high stakes, by the tension, by the characters, by the romance, just everything. Absolutely blown away. And this follows a girl who is an elemental witch, and she stumbles upon a ritual, or the leavings of a ritual at her school's bonfire. Someone gets hurt, and it kind of puts the whole coven on edge. They think someone's practicing magic that they shouldn't, or someone's kind of after them, and there's a lot of mysteries involved in this first book, and I absolutely adored it. And for my birthday, I'm going to go to my local used bookstore and see if they have the sequel in hardcover, because this is kind of old, so I'm trying to see if I can get a hardcover of the sequel to match. And then the other one is more recent, and I debated putting this on here because I don't know that it's a surprise necessarily how much I loved it, because I expected to love it, but The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. I was surprised by some of the relationships in here. I was surprised by the plot, and I I was surprised by how much it moved me and how much it made me feel. And I cannot wait to read this again, honestly. And I can't wait to see what else Catherine Arden does. She can do no wrong for me. And this is a World War I set historical fantasy. We have a brother and sister. The sister is a nurse on the front. The brother is in the war. She goes back home injured, gets his things sent to her with a note that says he has died, but there are also these mysterious things happening that she thinks maybe he didn't die. He's like missing. So she goes back to the front to work in a hospital and try and figure out what happened to her brother. Phenomenal. And her brother, it has like a storyline that takes place almost concurrently with hers, except a couple months beforehand. So we never truly know if he is alive while she is searching for him, because his story starts in November and hers starts in January. And we get both of their points of view, and his struggle in the war. I loved it so much. The next prompt is Happy Birthday Song, and this prompt is a book that deserved the hype. It deserves the clapping and the singing, and for that I picked Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I don't think I've talked about this much on my channel because I read it quite a while ago. I think I would like to reread this duology because it absolutely deserved all the hype and all the praise. I think the characters are well written, they are complex, the plot is interesting and complex. The world, this was actually my first introduction to the Grishaverse. I had not read Shadow and Bone or that trilogy, and I read this and I still enjoyed it, thought it was phenomenal, maybe liked it more than the original trilogy, even without the background knowledge. So I think it would be really interesting to read it now, having all the other knowledge that I do. I could reread this and then the sequel and then get into King of Scars finally. But this is about a band of rogues, a band of thieves who are hired to put on a heist at this supposedly unbreakable, unheistable, impenetrable, that's the word, impenetrable palace. And there were parts of this book that were so cinematic. I was trying to tell someone about it and I was like, yeah, what movie was that from? And then I realized, oh wait, it was from the book I was reading earlier. So just fantastic. Next prompt I struggled with a little bit. It's for happy music, and it is beautiful or memorable quotes, or a book that you like for memorable quotes. And I've got kind of a cop-out answer, okay? We've got The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. The writing in this is indisputably beautiful. The final sentence of this book, it haunts you, right? It haunts me. So we beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Like, you cannot beat this. It's a classic for a reason. And then I do have Station 11, which I recently reread, and this does have some beautiful quotes and beautiful writing, but I think that the writing is not what makes the story. I don't know, could this be written worse and still move me? I don't know. But there's this line about how one of the characters in the comic, in the book, looks out on his like sci-fi planet and thinks, as I looked upon the ruined world, I tried to forget the sweetness of life on earth, or something to that effect. And that line sticks with me. I think of it every now and then. So this is a book that takes place 20 years after a world-ending pandemic where like 90% of the population dies. And it follows a traveling symphony and Shakespeare company as they travel around performing. And also it follows this one actor and the people in his life and how like life before the pandemic and after, and it moves through time and is just stunning. It made me feel like, it makes me cry every time, and it makes me feel grateful to live in our current day, which is amazing. So the next prompt is about getting older, because on your birthday you gain a year, you're older. So this prompt is a book that you read a long time ago that you would appreciate more now. I struggled with this one as well, but I think I'm going to say The Absolutist by John Boyne. This is another World War I story that I think I read originally in 2012, 2011, and this is queer. It is set in World War I, and it's kind of set after World War I, and it is about how men were executed by their own country for cowardice when they had mental health issues or breakdowns about the horrors that they had seen in war. If they were not willing to go back to the front, if they were not willing to fight for their country murdered them. And it is about, you know, these two men and how one of them comes to the realization that like this war isn't worth fighting and becomes a objector, and it's beautiful and it's sad. This is something that I think I would gain more from now, because I not only know more about the history, I also know more about queer history, and I just feel like I would get more out of this or enjoy it more or understand more even now that I'm older. The last prompt is Sweet Birthday Memories, and that is a book that made you happy during a sad period. And this book really helped me during a rough time last year. This was something that I went to the bookstore and I was just like lost, trying to find just a bite of happiness or like not feeling awful. It didn't even need to be happiness. It just needed to be not feeling terrible. And I picked up this book. It caught my eye. I took it home and I read it right away, which is really rare for me. And it was fantastic. And that is Lion's Legacy by Elsie Rawson. This is a queer YA adventure story about a young man who he and his father have this like reality TV adventure show. And then that happens in the first chapter. They have this show. The boy quits because of ethical concerns against his dad. You know, his dad is like selling these artifacts they find to the highest bidder and not giving them to the country or the people who they are supposed to belong to. And then we follow, I think it's 2 years later, as our main character gets back in touch with his dad because his dad is looking for these rings for the Band of Thieves, which was this famous all queer band of men, and they supposedly had special powers while fighting. And so it's got like a little bit of historical fiction element, but like magified. What am I saying? It has a historical fiction element. It has that history, and it does talk about real queer history as well as these like fantastical things. So you do have like ghosts and skeletons that move and curses, and so it just has like that little bit of magical element that I just love so much. And it was just fun and empowering and hopeful, and it was what I needed at that time. Absolutely love this, and I have since bought like a bunch of other books by this author because this was such a good experience. So that is my birthday book tag. If you want to do this tag around your birthday or just for the fun of it, feel free. I'm not going to actually tag anyone, but this is an open invitation to do this tag, and I will link the original person who created it or who I saw it from down below. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, you could click that like button, you could subscribe, but really, you can do whatever you want. And I'll see you next time. And next time will be a birthday book haul because I've been on a limit and that limit's about to pop off.